Every kid has something that they feel incredibly passionate about. Some like sports, others like dance, but for me, my hobby was anything involving the Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom began to take up residence in my mind back in 1992, beginning with the highlighted audio cassette tape. I must have listened to that over and over again until I was able to get the London cast recording. This led me into more phantom-y things, including the Gaston Leroux novel and the 1925 silent film starring Lon Chaney that most of you were probably introduced to via Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. Now, by 1994, R.L. Stine was already on my radar since I was an avid reader back then and already read a number of his books like Welcome to the Dead House. But you can imagine when I walked into that bookstore and saw the newest Goosebumps book, number 24, The Phantom of the Auditorium. I held the book in my hands, staring at the cover which depicted a young boy dressed in complete phantom garb, wearing a white full-face mask and cape, while peeking out from behind the theater curtains. This brought about two questions. Would it measure up to the original source material by Gaston Leroux? And did this mean that R.L. Stine was a fan? Spelled P-H-A-N for those of us who call ourselves fans. Within a couple of hours, I had read all 160 pages and put it back on the shelf along with the other R.L. Stine books I owned. My analysis back then was pretty much the same as it is now. It was written for middle school kids and simply inspired by the Gaston Leroux novel, allowing R.L. Stine to create his own characters to tell this story in a new way. Nothing more, nothing less. Without giving too much of the plot away, Brooke and Zeke are 6th grade students, and they both have auditioned for this spooky play called The Phantom, and their school hasn't put it on in 70 years. Now you're probably thinking, why is that? Was it just a really bad play, or? Of course it was cursed! And there was a real-life phantom haunting their school, which is why some of the kids didn't want to audition for it. Anyway, Brooke and Zeke end up playing the leads, and while they're rehearsing, little incidents happen, and of course Zeke is blamed for them. Since he's a bit of a jokester and he's playing the lead role, everyone was like, oh, it's that guy, Zeke, he's the Phantom, and he's causing all of these things to happen. Also, a new boy, Brian, arrives at the school, and he befriends Brooke and Zeke, and together the three of them try to investigate who is causing all of these things to happen and setting up Zeke because he's almost kicked out of the play. It's a quick read, but if you're a fan of the original source material, you'd probably find it enjoyable. In conclusion, The Phantom of the Auditorium is in my top 5 R.L. Stine books. A few of you suggested that I read a few other ones and review them, which I probably will get around to doing eventually. Someone suggested Superstition, which is his very first adult novel, and somebody else wanted me to read Say Cheese and Die, which I know, blasphemy! Why haven't I read that one? I've only really read the titles that I found enjoyable, like Welcome to the Dead House, and then there was this other one, Be Careful What You Wish For, or something like that. To be honest, I've only read a handful of his books. And here's a fun side note. I find it very interesting that he usually writes by thinking of the title first. So he'll think of the title, and then he'll form a story around that. And I write like that too sometimes, so I find that very interesting that I kind of have a little similar style to R.L. Stine. You know, depending on if you like R.L. Stine or not, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. But I just want to leave you with this recommendation that I have. If you are into musicals, and if you enjoyed The Phantom of the Auditorium, then you absolutely must, go check out The Phantom of the Auditorium's musical. Yes, it's a musical, but they call it Goosebumps the Musical. But anyway, yeah, you've got to check it out. The songs are great, even though, interestingly enough, they're played by adults, but similar to the 25th annual Putnam Annual Spelling Bee, they do it so well that you can't really tell. You can suspend your disbelief there. But it's just, it's really fun. The songs are great. If you watch that Abbott Elementary, the one lady, I can't think of her name at the moment, but she plays the principal. She's also the principal in this. And she even gets to sing. Another huge highlight for me, which well, for most people, if you enjoy the musical Beetlejuice, Alex Brightman, who plays Beetlejuice, he's in this as a mole, the night janitor. He has a couple of songs which are very well written, and I really enjoy them. So he's in that, and one other further note, R.L. Stine himself is a cameo in this. He plays, yeah, you're not gonna believe this. Well, okay, yeah, you will. Principal Stine. His acting is it could have been better, but I have this feeling that he was approached by the first person that put on this musical. They're like, hey, R.L. Stine, it would really help us sell tickets if you were in this, just as a little cameo. But I can't act. That's okay, you'll only have a few lines. It doesn't matter. But if you enjoy musicals and this R.L. Stine novel, I think you would enjoy it.